Good morning. Grab a cup of coffee or tea and let's have some more girl chat. I thought we'd do a little bit of get ready. I've got some new makeup that I want to apply and test out, and I wanted to share my story of why I had to get neck surgery and also why I went to rehab actually for 30 days. Ooh, by the way, remember how I said my husband and I are just renting this little 1-bedroom and we don't live here all the time, it's temporary? I bought these really pretty Ralph Lauren, it came with like 10 of them with the little saucers and cups. I think they're probably teacups, but I put my coffee in it, and I got these at the Goodwill store for like $4 for a pack of 8 or 10. It came with the saucers and the cups. And then when I thought, oh, these are really pretty. And when I got home, I looked and it said Ralph Lauren on them, and I Googled and they're like $20-some for each one. So I don't think whomever did the pricing at the Goodwill store knew what brand this was, but hey, what a find for me. All right, so this scar right here, that scar is from my neck surgery that I had when I was 28 or 29 years old. I'm now 53 years old. And I was active duty in the military. I was a medic. I worked in the emergency room, and I also worked oncology, cardiology, but then my last 4 years, I taught the EMT and the nursing course to all the students out of basic training. I guess I haven't shared the rehab part for a long time because if I don't go into detail, it comes across much differently, obviously, than how how everything happened. But I was talking to my husband and he's like, you could probably help some people and give some good warnings so that they don't have to go through some things that you went through. So I know on my channel, I predominantly just talk about skincare, makeup, and that's pretty much it. But I figured if we're girlfriends and we're hanging out at each other's house and we're getting ready, we are not only going to talk about what ingredients are in every single product. I figured we would actually chat about life and girl things, and so I figured why not share some things here on my channel. So if you're interested and you enjoy these longer chatty videos, that's pretty much what this video will be about. But of course, for those of you that are like, no, I only want to see you put on makeup and what new shades are out there, you can mute it if you want and fast forward and just see what makeup I'm using. But for those of you that do want to know about what happened with my neck and in the military and why I had to go to rehab to detox the narcotics out of my system, that's what I'm going to talk about. All right, I'm about to share everything, but really quickly, let me know what this lighting looks like. Another funny story, if you don't want to hear it, just fast forward. I put one of my videos on the television. Now, mind you, the television we have here is super small. Like, we rented a sofa and we were not about to buy a TV because when we leave here, I don't want to have to give a ton of stuff away. But so we just used the TV that's like this big that we had given to his mom, and now she doesn't need it. But so we have it scooted like this close to the sofa. Well, I put one of my videos on the TV. I was like, let me see what it looks like when you watch my videos on a TV versus a phone or a computer. And you guys, I was cracking up. I don't know if it's the quality of the TV or if I have done something weird on my camera. I know I always say, I don't use filters. I zoom in really, really close. I show you every nook and cranny, which I do. If you have been with my channel for a long time, I zoom the camera in, I show you blemishes, hyperpigmentation. I mean, you can see up my nose, in my pores. So because I feel like, why would I fake, having perfect skin when I don't have perfect skin? I have healthy skin, but it's not perfect. I have some blemishes here and melasma and all that. We all have pores. And sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, your skin is so poreless. Now, mind you, if you see me a little bit further away, you can't really see everything. But I was looking on the TV and I kept noticing that I could see my pores here and they looked really big on the TV. Now, in person, I'm sweating. I don't want to turn the air on because it's too loud. In person, I do have pores, obviously. I'm a human, but my pores aren't massive. And then of course I use good skincare to keep them looking nice. But I mean, you can hopefully see, the glare on my forehead is these super bright kitchen lights, but hopefully you can see pores. But what I kept noticing was I'd see pores here, and then right here it looked like a filter or something was on. And I was like, that is so weird. First of all, I don't know how to use filters. I'm not that skilled. It took me forever to learn how to do all this YouTube stuff. But I looked on my camera and I'm like, wait, these settings look off. So I realized that when I'm putting my camera in my camera bag, maybe I'm twisting things or things are adjusting. So I did like this little YouTube tutorial that I found. I Googled what are the proper vlog or filming settings with this camera I have, the G7X Mark II. And I've rechanged the settings to what I saw this girl on YouTube said is the best way to show your skin the proper way. And you know, I don't know if there's a filter on it or whatever, but I did tweak quite a few things. So I want your opinion, because obviously I can't see what this looks like yet until I edit it or put it on the TV. I want to make sure you can see my skin the proper way. And what I see, even with my glasses, what I see, this looks like, golly, these are dirty. This looks like my actual skin color. And for example, okay, let me hold something up to make sure it's not too bright so that you can see this is true to color what I see in the viewfinder. Or for example, this CL blush, this one is in the shade Rush. This is true to color. Here's something else from CL. If you're familiar with this brand, this is true to color. So I really wanted to make sure there's no like too much glare, and I don't want it to look like there's a weird filter. So if that's ever been the case on a video, I apologize for those people who have accused me of using a filter, and I'm like, I don't use a filter. What's this person talking about? Maybe that's what they're seeing, what I saw. Or like I said, it could just be the TV, since it's like, I don't know, it's probably the Goodwill wouldn't even want it. That's how bobo that TV is. So leave me a comment, let me know if this lighting is right, because again, these are totally new settings, and I have not tested it and put the disc in the TV or nothing like that to look. So this is just kind of raw. And I'm needing your help to tell me what this looks like. And also, I never say this little spiel in the beginning. If you are not subscribed to my channel, but you want to be included in upcoming giveaways, I just had a big giveaway with 3 winners with a lot of really fun new products. But if you want to be included in upcoming giveaways, make sure you look and it says that you are subscribed to my channel. Some people were saying that they realized they'd lost out on the giveaway because they thought they were subscribed, since my videos will pop up, and they just assume they're subscribed, but then they realize they never clicked on that subscribe button. So I always get so much brand new stuff in PR, and then of course I buy a bunch of stuff. And so I figured my way to give back to you guys, instead of just giving the stuff I have to family and friends, if you're interested in giveaways with brand new products, a lot of things will be brand new products to the market. If you want to be included in these giveaways, make sure you click on that subscribe button. All right, so what I just put on my face, this, I don't know if you noticed, it just gave it a really pretty kind of sheen or glow. This is the Naked Sundays. This is the Cabana Glow Mineral Glow Drops, the serum drops, but it's an all mineral SPF 50. Now, I already put my sunscreen on, my ISDEN. I had already put that on for the day, but I wanted to use this actually as my primer. So I just, you know, put a little bit in the areas where I like to have a lot of glow. And for my foundation, I'm gonna use this Anastasia Blurring Second Skin Matte Foundation. Some of you had asked me to test this out, and I've been hesitant for months because, you know, some of the reviews were like, they either hated it or loved it. I can't get it out. Ooh. But it's a matte foundation. And I do have normal to oily skin sometimes, but I've been using, this is my new Holy Grail foundation from Naked Sundays. This is their beauty screen. I wear shade 2.5 in this, and this is to me the prettiest mature skin friendly foundation I've ever seen, ever. Like, I've never had a Holy Grail foundation in my entire life, if that tells you anything, until I discovered this, I don't know, maybe a year ago. So that's what I use pretty much all the time. But I will test out foundations, especially if you guys ask me to, if I read the ingredients and I don't see pore cloggers. There are some foundations that come to the market and people rave about it, but then I read the ingredients, and the first few ingredients are things that I know will give me pimples. So I just avoid those. But the ingredients on this look decent. Now, I already have tested this a few times, and I don't hate it, but I don't love it. And the reason why is because I feel like it can look a little makeup-y. I'll just put 2 pumps on my hands. That's gonna be too much, but this is a very thick foundation, and it does give you a really good medium to full coverage. Now, you could have massive full coverage if you wanted, but then you're just gonna look like a makeup-y cake face, which that's what I don't like. So I have tested this, let me wipe this off. I have tested this a few times The first few times I put way too much on. I did not like it. I put it directly on my skin the way I do. With my Naked Sundays, I can just pour it on my skin and it blends out beautifully. With this, oh my gosh, don't do that. You're gonna look horrible. So I just take a foundation brush. This is sort of clean. This is an Anissa Beauty one. My BK Beauty one's dirty. And then I just kind of pat it in here, get a little bit on the bristles, and then try to also pat some of it off. And then I just do little sections, but I don't know if you can see, this is really nice full coverage. This shade has a little bit more yellow in it than I'd like. I'd like a little bit more kind of peachy, but that's okay. We make it work. With this foundation also, you have got to do proper skin prep. If you are not into hydration with good hydrating serums or a good hydrating moisturizer and probably even a primer, if you're not into that, then you're going to, I mean, look at how full coverage this is. You are going to hate this foundation. You know what, we gotta pull our hair back. I got these cute little sparkly barrettes at Ulta. I'll link these if anyone likes them. They're super cute. But I use these to kind of just clip my hair a little bit out of the way. So anyways, I probably would never wear this foundation during the day because I like, since I have melasma and hyperpigmentation, I like to have that extra sunscreen protection. So when I put on my sunscreen, then I also like to use sunscreen makeup over top just for that extra icing on the cake and to make sure my melasma is protected. Wipe off my lips. I have my lip plumper on my lips, prepping them. All right, and then I still have a ton left on my hand. Actually, I'll put a little bit more around my mouth. Now I try not to bring it up too close under my eyes. And then what I like to do, since this is a full coverage, I like to spray it down with a little bit, well, a lot of my Charlotte Tilbury setting spray. And then I just kind of let it sit. I have a little fan, but I don't feel like getting it. And then get a little tacky. And then I will use a blending sponge and just kind of press that in. But this really stays on for a very, very, very long time. But again, to me, if you are somebody that doesn't like the look of makeup, you might not like this unless you do the lightest coat like I did. You know, I did 2 pumps, but really 1 pump is more than enough and you probably won't even use all that. What I don't like is since it's so matte, that's why I do a lot of skin prep before. I'll do another video next or a couple videos from now showing exactly how I skin prep for different foundations, because I think that's why a lot of people might not like certain foundations, because their skin prep is done incorrectly. So if anybody wants to see, to me, the best skin prep routine of skincare, what skincare you should use before you do makeup, I can share that in another video. But one thing I just don't love about this is, you know, I'm 53 years old. I feel like right here it kind of accentuates and makes it look like I have a little bit more lines and pores here than what I show with other foundations. But so let me make sure I don't have it under my eyes. But this does give a good amount of coverage. To me, my natural oils will start to peek through this and my skin will still look healthy. But again, it does, to me, I can tell that I have makeup on even when I put the thinnest layer on. So for me, this would be more of a nighttime foundation, not something I'm wearing out in the sun. I have worn it a few times during the day, and yes, it does still look nice, and this stays put on my face, and it's actually a nice foundation. So thank you to whomever asked me to test this out. And something I've already done also, I'm testing out this new product from 𝑽𝑰𝑫𝑬𝑺. This is their at-home filler. This says it's a targeted lip filler. I have something very similar to this from Dermalect. And I've already gone through 2 tubes of the Dermalect, and it's supposed to help these like wrinkles if you have smoker lines or if you drink out of a straw, or just, you know, the older we get, just pursing our lips, talking, whatever, we get little wrinkles. And I have this one little wrinkle here that's the deepest one, and I've only used, they said within 1 week you see results. I will say I like this. I don't know if I like it better than the Dermalect one yet, but I've only used it for what, a couple weeks, but I actually do like it. I do feel like I get a little bit more kind of instant plumpness with this, and I'll put it all over my lips, but I mainly focus it right around my lip border, and I feel like it really preps my lips nicely before I do my lipstick. But you use it twice a day, but I've actually been using it like 3 times a day because I really want to see if I get good results. But it's got nice ingredients in it, and you know, I do really like it. It's not going to make you look like you had fillers. So when they say at-home filler, it's not like big beautiful, voluptuous lips, but I think it can really enhance the lip border nicely. So I'm gonna keep working on this one and see if I like it, but so far I do really like it. The other thing I did is for probably the past half an hour, I've had my all-time favorite lip plumper on by Revision Skincare. This, like, to me is, well, this is a holy grail. This is, to me, better than City Lips. This makes my lips look so juicy and full, and since it's a thick formula, it fills in all the wrinkles and crinkles. It's kind of like a spackle, where it fills in any like nooks and crannies and divots and all of that. And it just makes your lips look so smooth and beautiful. But I like to blot it off before I do my makeup. And then this is the lip gloss that I keep in my purse and wear throughout the day. And then I did also put on my lash serum. At night, I put a heavy coat of this, but then in the morning, I just put a really thin coat and then kind of go like that, because it's kind of got like a white milky color to it. But this is my favorite. This really keeps my lashes super healthy, and it helps them to grow nice and long, and I don't have to use the bad lash serums anymore that have the prostaglandins in it that, you know, can hollow the under eye. It makes you lose fat. Not this one, but the other ones have been shown that people were losing the fat underneath their eyes and making their eyes look hollowed out, causing their eyelids to get more saggy and droopy. And sure, they had super long lashes, but would you rather have long lashes with super saggy eyelids and hollowed out under eyes, or would you rather not have that intense aging and fat loss around the eyes and take a little bit longer? But after about 3-4 months, this really makes a difference in my lashes. The other thing I love about this, my lashes don't fall out and they grow nice and beautiful and straight. With like Revitalash, Grande Lash, all those other ones, yes, my lashes grew super fast, but those are very, you know, bad for the eye area. But they, my lashes, I'd have like rogue lashes all the time. Like one would be going this way, and then they fell out all the time. Like 3, 4, 5, 6 lashes would just constantly just shed. It was weird. And that's a normal growth phase. But with this, my lashes, they're super healthy. So that's what else I used. But as far as the full skin prep on the face, I can share that later. Also, one other nice thing with this foundation, I don't really have to use much concealer on my face afterwards, since it is pretty full coverage. All right, let me do my brows and then I'll do my eyeshadow afterwards. I just want to wipe off any foundation that maybe got in my brows. All right, for my brows, Morphe, they came out with this new Nano Brow Pencil and their Micro Manager Brow Gel. So that's what I'm gonna use on my brows today. Now, I have already tested this also. I like it, but I don't love it better than this combination, my NYX Brow Glue with my Kosas pencil. If you wanna see how I apply this, I'll try to remember to pop another video up here and just fast forward to the part in the video where I do my brows. This is holy grail combination right now, love it. But this is nice. This is a nice affordable combo, but this brow glue does not do what this NYX glue, like this sets my brows in place, but it's kind of high maintenance, so you got to work really, really quickly with this, otherwise your brows will look crazy. Just zoom in some. So while I do my brows, I'll just share with you what happened to my neck and why I went to rehab. Like I said, I was in the Air Force. I was active duty Air Force for 11 years. And one day I woke up and I could not feel my hand on my left side. And I thought, oh, it's just probably no big deal. Maybe I slept wrong. But it wasn't like just that normal, like, oh, I got a little ping in my neck. It's, you know, something's not right. I was going to college full time while I was at active duty. That was the nice thing about the military, is back then we had tuition assistance. Now I think they do it 100% free, but I also had my GI Bill, but I never had to use it. I made it halfway through my master's degree before I had to get out of the military, and then I just chose to never finish it. So, but you know, I got like 3 associate degrees and my bachelor's. My bachelor's degree is in, it's a Bachelor of Science in Occupational Education, specializing in corporate training and development. That's what my bachelor's was. And I was trying to finish my master's so that I could join the medical service corps, and you know, to be like hospital administrator or whatever. In the military, of course. I had planned to stay in forever, as long as I could. Anywho, you know, that's just life. Sometimes our dreams aren't lined up with what the good Lord has for us, and that's okay. I was, you know, always upset about it back then, because the military, if you know about being in the military, like that's your life. I was very dedicated to the military, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. And I especially loved the discipline. That's one thing I like. I am a rule follower, but I also like other people around me to follow rules. For example, if you live in a neighborhood with HOAs, I like that you can't paint your fence pink and hang, you know, purple flowing curtains and have a yellow sofa sitting on your front porch. If you don't like that, then don't live in an HOA. But for me, I like rules. I like organization. I like structure. That's just how I am. And I want to be around others that are like that also. And that's one great thing about the military. So like I said, I was a medic. I was deployed over in Croatia. I lived in a tent for 6 months. I worked with the United Nations. You know, I was a young 21-year-old girl back then, and that really was, I'll try to remember to pop up pictures, but that was just really a highlight of my career. Really got to see a lot, you know, a lot of terrible things in war. I worked in the emergency room, the MASH unit. We took over the Army's MASH unit. So I worked with a lot of patients that were on the front lines in the war with like anti-tank landmine accidents, things like that. And I really learned a lot. I loved it. And then I was stationed in Germany at Landstuhl. I worked at the Army hospital. I was one of the first groups of Air Force to go to the Army hospital there. And then I was stationed in, and then, you know, I started out, of course, in Texas, where basic training is and stuff, in my tech school. And then I went to Germany, and then Croatia, and then after that I was stationed in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I loved it there. At first I was like, what? Why do we have antelopes and things like that running around just the streets in front of my dorm? It was a shocker for me. And I love that. I worked in the emergency room, ambulance services there. And then I got accepted to be, I was married at the time, not to the husband I'm with now, but to somebody different. And we had been married for over a year, and the military kept saying they were going to put us together. And of course, that's the joys of military marriages. They wouldn't put us together because I made rank again, a higher rank. And so they were like, oh, well, now there's not a slot for you in Alaska where he is. So we were trying to figure out a way to get together. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll be an instructor, because if you do a special duty assignment, then they will put you together. So we did what we had to do. I became an instructor for the military. And so then I went back to Texas. And by then, he and I had been apart for 2 years. Anyways, long story short, you guys can figure out what he did, because he couldn't wait that long. And so that's why we ended up divorcing. So I was an instructor, and I loved it. I taught the emergency medical technician course and the nursing course. And I was a very strict instructor. I have a very strict upbringing also. So the military was quite easy for me, but then being an instructor was just an amazing job, and being able to shape and form these young students fresh out of basic training, but teaching them, you know, what their job was going to be. So I loved it. I wasn't mean. I just was like, there was no nonsense. There was no slightly breaking a rule. It was, these are the rules, you follow them or else. So, you know, and that was the military for you back then. I think they've kind of gotten a little soft now. I don't think they're as strict, but you know, it is what it is. All right, my husband had come in and we were talking, and I turned the camera back on and I forgot to push record. So I'm already on the brow gel step now. This is the new Morphe brow gel. And as I was saying, but you didn't know I was saying it because the camera was not recording. It's nice for an affordable brow gel. It's clear, but it's not as good as the NYX Crazy Glue one. But you know, this will work if you're looking for something inexpensive. And the other thing I was saying that I noticed, I feel like my camera, whatever setting I put it on, it's on like some auto setting. I don't know, let me know what you guys think. I feel like when I look in this little viewfinder, because I'm trying to look here and where the camera is so I can look into your eyes. But when I look up, every now and then I see that like the color's lighter, then it's darker. So I don't know, I'm gonna have to figure out some different camera settings now that I've changed it all. And because I want my lighting to stay the same, you know, lighting the whole time. Anyways, so if that happens, I apologize. So while I was in the military and I was an instructor teaching the EMT and nursing course, I also was working like just part-time, a couple days a week as a phlebotomist at the local hospital as a civilian, just, you know, to make extra money. Because if you know anything about the military, they don't make much money. I mean, we were borderline, you know, I don't know, I think they pay military borderline poverty. But, you know, of course, we get, you know, our uniforms, we don't have to pay extra for our uniforms. We get a clothing allowance. So I shouldn't say we don't have to pay, because if you want extras, you do have to come out of pocket. But We got a clothing allowance and, golly, these are crooked. We also got a housing allowance when I stayed in the dorms, you know, that I didn't have to pay extra for that. But then when I lived off base in an apartment, I got a housing allowance for that. And then I ended up living in base housing at one time also. So, and then food, if you eat at the chow hall, you don't have to pay for that. So they do give you some perks. And then when I'm deployed, you get hazardous duty pay, stuff like that, because obviously I was in a war zone. But the pay still, you know, I was never, I think I owned like 2 makeup items. I was never able to buy makeup, skincare, none of that. Like I did not have money for stuff like that. But I didn't care because I loved being in the military. Now I'm just gonna do my eyeshadow. I'm gonna use this Makeup by Mario as my eyeshadow primer. But, so I worked as a phlebotomist part-time, and then I also was going to college full-time while I was finishing my master's. Well, I was trying to finish it before I had to get medically separated. And so but back then I was in my 20s, I only needed like 3 hours of sleep and that was totally fine. I had stayed up really late one night working on a paper, and that's, I think because my neck was like this, that's what made me think like, oh, it's probably just the position that I was in when I was working on the paper. That's why I couldn't feel my arm that next day. So I was actually in class, it was a Saturday, so I didn't have to work, but it was a Saturday and I was taking classes all day that day. And it kept getting worse and worse and worse. Now, also I have an extremely high pain tolerance, so much that if I zoom in, you could see all the little scars everywhere they're just little teeny white scars. Since I was a medical instructor, I used to let my students practice like 16 gauge IVs on me. A 16 gauge is quite large for an IV. That's only for trauma. Typically when you get an IV in the hospital, you're not getting a 16 gauge. So I have a very high pain tolerance. So I pretty much blew it off. And I blew my neck off for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, but you know, every now and then I'd take an Advil, I'd lay on ice, I'd do things, and I was like, it must be my neck. I couldn't, you know, but it got to the point where I just couldn't feel, especially these 2 fingers. It got to the point where I couldn't feel anything. So to make this super long story a little bit shorter, I went to one of my doctors that I worked with, and he said, oh, well, you're too young to have anything seriously wrong with you. Let me manipulate your neck and see if I can pop whatever out, which probably one of the worst things that could have been done. You know what I'm gonna use? This is like the very first eyeshadow brush I ever bought. This is, golly, this is probably 20 some years old. This is the old IT Cosmetics, and this was the only eyeshadow brush I had in my makeup kit. You don't have to have a ton of makeup brushes. I think that we've just gone a little crazy nowadays with makeup brushes, but this is all I used to use, so I'm gonna see if I can make it work. Anyways, and I don't even know if they make this double-ended one anymore. I'll have to look. It's the bristles aren't as soft, of course, as my BK Beauty, but it does what it has to do. So he manipulated my neck. The pain just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And then I finally just went and made a regular doctor's appointment. You know, mostly a lot of medical people, since I was medical, we're kind of stubborn and we just try to let things heal on our own or deal with it on our own. We hate going to the doctor. And I just do not like going to the doctor. But so I finally went to the doctor and they were like, oh, well, let's do an EEG. They wanted to see if I had a bunch of nerve damage in my hand because I'd let it go for so long, and I did. I had some damage caused from letting it go. And then they did MRI, CAT scan, they did all that, the whole works, the whole shebang over, you know, a period of a couple months. And that's when they discovered that I had, in my neck, I had a degenerative disc disease. And I had bulging discs. And if you look at my MRI, like my neurologist in Miami, he's like, your neck is a hot mess. And that's like the nicest way for someone to say what they see on my MRI. It's not that great. But I don't want surgery again because I don't want to go through what I went through. I had a C5, C6 discectomy and fusion, and they put like titanium cages in there, you know, to make everything move the right way. But the problem is the way they put my neck back together, I always feel like I'm protruded, I'm pushed forward, and because of what they've done. So my spine is not the way it's supposed to be. It's you know, whatever they did, because in the military, you're government property. So it's not like you can be like, let me go have a second opinion and go see a civilian doctor and use my military insurance to go do that. When you are active duty, you're government property, and you just pretty much do what they say. And, you know, you want to get back to duty. You want to do what you got to do. So, and when you're young, you're just like, yeah, okay, I'll do whatever. So they decided, after doing tons of different injections, they tried to do all these different things, physical therapy, and just nothing was fixing it. I was missing a lot of work, which, at least the nice thing in the military, even if you miss work, they still pay you. But I wanted to work. I'm not the type to sit at home in pain. And but then they started putting me on pain medication. And back then, I didn't know enough about it because, of course, I'm trusting these doctors. Oh, I'm using this Morphe eyeshadow palette, by the way. I think I'm just going to put this pretty shimmery one. Do I want this one? Yeah, I'm gonna put this one right here on the lid. Or do I want this one? No, I'll do this one. Put this shade on the lid. Oh, that's pretty. I'm gonna mix it with this matte one and this one. So they were putting me on all different kinds of medications. First they would do, you know, like Advil, and then they would just bump it up to higher types of anti-inflammatories, naproxen, and all different ones. But then it got so bad to where I got an ulcer, like a horrible ulcer. And didn't matter if I ate it with food, a sandwich, whatever, like it was just so painful. And so then the pain was just getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, it was excruciatingly painful. And I was scheduled for surgery at this point. They just kept bumping up medication. And so then at that time, Ultram or Tramadol, it was not a narcotic. When I worked in the emergency room, I was not allowed to distribute narcotics as a med technician at that time when I worked in the ER. But I could give anything, you know, I could do antibiotics, whatever. If the doctor said, okay, give that patient, you know, whatever, some Advil and Tylenol. But Tramadol, Ultram, was part of that med cabinet. It wasn't locked up in the narcotic cabinet. And back then, like I said, it was not a controlled substance. And so then the doctor said, well, we're gonna put you on Ultram, Tramadol. I forget what milligrams, maybe it was 50 milligrams. That's what I have now, but I'll explain to you why I take it now. Because you're gonna be like, wait a minute, if you got addicted to opioids, why do you take it now? But I'll explain that. I'm just gonna use this kind of dark blue shade as my eyeliner. So I remember the very first time when I took it, I remember I was like, oh my gosh. It didn't completely take my pain away, just really, I felt like, oh my gosh, this is life-changing. I could go back to work, I could perform my daily duties, I could, you know, I could really be a normal person again taking this. And of course, in my mind, the doctors are like, don't you worry, it's not addictive, you know, yeah, it's an opioid, but it's not a narcotic, it's not even controlled, you know, we can just give it to you, no biggie. Well, that's what I took for months. But then the pain would start coming back. And if you know anything about taking pain medication, whatever dose you're on, you're gonna end up needing to get on a higher dose and a higher dose and a higher dose if you keep taking it. Because one thing about doctors, and this is why you will hear me in many videos, you know, I love doctors. I think obviously a purpose for doctors, and I've had some great doctors. But one thing that doctors do, it doesn't matter where we go. I mean, for example, I even went in to the doctor with my husband the other day because he was like, yeah, you can come on back. And every time my husband would talk about whatever, you know, my husband doesn't really have any major issues. He doesn't take daily medication. But every time my husband would say, yeah, I'm fine with this, maybe a little, you know, this or that's going on. And the doctor's like, oh, okay, well, I have a medication for you. And my husband and I are looking at each other like, how about let's change the diet? Or how about let's exercise? Like every little thing. And then it got to where we were like giggling because I'm like, is he seriously like just trying to push medication on you every 5 seconds for things that you don't even need? You don't need medication for everything. I've even had doctors when I talk about the natural things I'm doing to heal my body or to get healthy, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, well, if you would just take this medication. For example, with acne, I've told the story before, when I got horrible acne, this doctor wanted to put me on Accutane within 2 seconds of seeing me. And I'm like, well, wait, couldn't we try to figure out the root cause and how to fix it? And thankfully, I never took the Accutane. I took a supplement, and then, you know, my acne completely went away when I took it. And then when I went back to see him, he's like, okay, give me the name of this supplement. What'd you do? Because they're just trained, for the most part, many of them are just trained to push meds. And so that's something, and especially my history with why I had to go to rehab, you know, yes, I guess I'm partly at fault, I guess, but I was ignorant back then. Now that would never happen. but because they were just pushing meds on me. And so I think that's how a lot of people get addicted to medication. You know, you might break your arm or whatever, and the doctor's like, yeah, I'll just take this for months. Well, if you take a narcotic that long, even some narcotics, if you take narcotics more than a week, you could potentially become dependent on them. So if I sound annoyed or angry, sometimes I do get really angry because it's like, I trusted them. Like, I trusted the doctors with my health, and that's how I wound up in that situation. So they had me on tramadol or Ultram, you know, one's a generic. Then I had to just keep upping the dose and upping the dose. And then I'm like, are you sure this is okay? Because I'm like, it does kind of make me a little like, like I don't really love the way it makes me feel, but I was able to function. They're like, yeah, it's totally fine. You know, like I said, it's not a narcotic. And then they're just like, now get out of my office and quit trying to find the root cause. No, they didn't say that, but that's just what they did. So then they did the surgery because they tried to burn the nerves. They tried to do all these different procedures. Nothing was working because since it just was so far gone, it was so advanced, I needed to have surgery. So they said. They did the surgery, and I felt like I was worse after my surgery than before. I was bedridden actually for like a month. The surgery messed up my body so bad to where I had incontinence. Like, I've never even been pregnant, never had incontinence, but whatever the anesthesia and whatever happened in the surgery, whatever they did to me, I had incontinence, bladder incontinence, and it was awful. You know, I'm in my 20s, and it just out of the blue, I'm sure if you've been pregnant or whatever, you know what I'm talking about, but in your 20s, I'm like, what is happening? So then I had to go through to urology and go to all these different procedures to figure out how to stop the incontinence. And they actually stopped it from, I went to physical therapy because I was like, no more medicine. I went to physical therapy, and we did like basically Kegels and did bladder retraining where they put like this, you know, thing there, and they monitor to make sure you're squeezing tight enough. So thankfully it went away from that, but I just had so many issues after surgery. That's why I've never had any other surgery in my life. People are like, oh, you've had a facelift. It's, okay, no, I haven't. But I will never have another surgery unless, you know, like my eyeballs hanging out or my legs falling off, because what I went through was pretty traumatic for me. So I just was not healing very well after the surgery. And like I said, I was pretty much bedridden because the pain was so intense. I didn't have family around or anything. And one second, I wanted to test out these concealers. I did a declutter video the other day, and I wanted to hang on to a couple to see if I could make them work. I don't know, I don't really want to. I kind of want to use my Kosas, but I'm gonna try the Estee Lauder Double Wear on this eye, and I'm gonna try this Sarah Creole other eye. I wanna see how they wear. Maybe not a great idea to test them with this foundation. I did both eyes completely different. That's what happens when you're talking and not paying attention. One thing I do want to do, I want to just kind of add a little hydrating primer to my under eye real quick. Just a little drop. Oop, just a little drop. I normally don't like to go in on my skin with it because this is, I feel like, kind of a drying concealer, but it does have nice coverage. So if you like all that matte look, that's what we're gonna do. But normally I like to use something a little more hydrating, and I just clean up that mess that I made with the eyeshadow. 3 teeny little dots, it's more than enough. And it does kind of help kind of disguise that hollowed out area. So this is a nice concealer. I've worn this quite a bit, and I do like it, but I do feel like it gets a little drying. I just feel like the lighting is dark. Like I feel like I have a lot of shadows on my face, but that's okay. This one feels a little more hydrating than the Estee Lauder. So I'm just gonna kind of let those sit, do their thing. It doesn't have as much coverage, I don't think. Let's put one more little dot right here. I don't feel like the Sarah Creole has as much coverage. So it might be good for mature skin if you don't want a lot of coverage, but it does seem kind of thick. So it definitely, I don't think I like this concealer. I hope it's not too bright now, but I read and I clicked something on the top of my camera to like make it so it's not so weird dark. And what I see in my mirror looks like what I'm seeing here. So again, if the lighting is all off, I apologize, but it was just so weird the way the shadows were like accentuated before it was just not, that's not what I see in my mirror. Like, I do not like this Sarah Creole concealer at all. What I'm seeing, it's just very makeup-y. So I will probably just go ahead and declutter that. I'm gonna finish the story of then what happened, what the doctors did to me. But I bought 3 new mascaras. This one from Stila, I've already tried it. I didn't wanna do a first impressions because sometimes, you know, I might be like, oh my gosh, this is great, or oh my gosh, this is terrible, and then I gotta redo another video to tell you like, oh, that's just my first impressions, but after using it, it's great, or it's not great. But anyways, this is the new, I don't know how new it is, I didn't notice it before. I always get the small ones to test them, but this is the Stila Made You Lash, and it's a tubing mascara. So I was like, let me compare it and see if I love it compared to the Dibs. Like the Dibs, when I first tried it, it was like, it's not that great. But now, after using it for a month, oh my gosh, I love this so much. I bought more. This is a fabulous tubing mascara, and it's got brown on one side and black on the other. So to me, you're getting 2 mascaras in one, but just the way it makes my lashes. If you look at my last video, my lashes are so lifted and they stay like that all day. It doesn't matter if I have it on 12 hours. It stays put, no flaking, no smudging, and it comes off so easily. Love this. So this is what I usually compare everything to, but I put this on next to it and I quite liked it. And then, so I think I'm gonna use this today. Actually, I'll do Dibs on one and this on the other just so you can see. But I've already tested these also. I'm always trying to find super inexpensive mascaras. These are the Essence ones. This is the Lash Without Limits. This is a tubing mascara, and I saw some people say this was a great mascara. It does look pretty. It doesn't look as amazing as my Dibs, but at first it does look pretty. But as I wear it throughout the day, I notice like going like this, and it's like, oh, there's like a chunk of something it starts to kind of flake a little bit. And it gets in my eyes, and it's just kind of annoying. So then I bought their waterproof one. I thought, well, maybe the Lash Without Limits waterproof one would be even better, but it makes my lashes so crunchy and they just don't feel healthy when I use this. I'm all for using really inexpensive mascaras because I'm always trying to find something super inexpensive, but I feel like if the health of my lashes, you know, if I'm taking the time to use a really healthy lash serum to get my lashes healthy, I don't want to put a mascara on that starts to make them feel dried out and not healthy. Right. So, you know, I would go to the doctor. I had to do all my follow-ups and stuff after surgery, and I would tell them, you know, I am in so much pain, more pain than before having the surgery. It was so frustrating. And it was to where I just could not work. I was in so much pain. I couldn't stand up on that podium and teach all day long and, you know, demonstrate how to do CPR and all. I just, physically, I was a mess. It was to where I could not even get up to go, you know, take a shower by myself. I was just in so much physical pain, and not just from the neck surgery, but, you know, your whole spine, if you realize what your spine controls. And then I also had something wrong with my brain stem also. So it just, all the nerves in your spine, it's called Chiari malformation, but I won't go into detail on that. But I just had so much pain, and it was really affecting just obviously my daily life. So anyways, when I go back to the doctor, I tell him, I'm like, look, I'm in so much pain. What you guys have done to me, it's just not working. And again, I was government property, so they were just kind of like, oh, well, you're just depressed. Studies show that taking an antidepressant helps with pain. So then they would try to like prescribe, you know, this is back in the day, like amitriptyline and different antidepressants. And I'm like, but I'm not depressed. Like, I'm angry, but I don't have like a clinical depression. I'm annoyed because I want to feel good and I don't, and I'm trying to figure out how to make myself feel better without just popping pills every day. But of course they were just like, no, take this, take that. And, you know, they tried different medications, Neurontin, different things like that, topiramate. And I hated the Neurontin and gabapentin because those made me gain so much weight. And back then I was only like, I don't know, 128 pounds, and I'm 5'8", so that was pretty skinny. But I gained like 40 pounds taking all these steroids that they put me on. So that, of course, made the pain worse because I was carrying around all that extra weight. And I mean, I don't weigh that now. I'm definitely not skinny in 120s. So then the Ultram just didn't work at all anymore, and they had me on a high dose. And so then they were like, okay, well, we're gonna put you on fentanyl. So they put me on a fentanyl patch, and it was like a nicotine patch, but it had fentanyl in it. And I didn't know any better back then. They were like, it's a lot stronger, this is a narcotic, but since we put the patch on you, you'll get like a time release dose of the fentanyl, and you know, and at that point I wanted this intense pain to go away. And I didn't know enough about like researching how to, you know, heal myself a better way, because, you know, I was in my 20s and I was just listening to what the doctors that I trusted told me. Look how pretty this mascara is. I don't feel like it gives me as much lift as the Dibs, but I do think it's pretty. So I'll put another coat on and see if I can get it to look the same. And this lasts all day long also. It's a really nice tubing mascara. I don't know the price of it. I'll link it down below and see. I got it at Ulta, and they have a full-size one, but I always like to get the small ones because I feel like I throw out a mascara after 3 months anyways, and the small one lasts me pretty much 3 months. So I like to save where I can. But the fentanyl patch, I hated it. It would cause like such a release. When my body would heat up, it would just release so much at once. It didn't like deliver in little micro doses. It would just like flood me with intense amounts of the fentanyl. And I was like high, but it was, to me, I don't like that feeling. I don't like to be out of control. I want to be able to control my body and know what's happening. And to me, it was a horrible, horrible feeling. And then they're like, oh, just cut it in half. And that was like the worst thing ever. But then it got so bad to where I realized one morning, I got up because I was like, I'm going to go to work today. I'm going to teach. And I could not do I wanted to go brush my teeth, and I could not even function because I had not put that fentanyl patch on in like a day or two. I could not even function without getting that medication in me. So I started realizing like, this medication has a hold on me, and I didn't like that. So then they put me on, I don't know, like Darvocet or Percocet or Darvon, something like that. Not so much like the fentanyl patch, but it just didn't work. The pain was so great. Now the pain would go away, of course, with the fentanyl, but of course then I had all those side effects of feeling crazy, like I couldn't drive or anything with it. It just was not fun. And yeah, these concealers look terrible. I'm gonna zoom in a second and show you. They make my under eyes look so wrinkly and crinkly. So then I thought, you know what? I did something silly. I was like, I'm over these pills. I don't want to take anything else. And so I wanted to test myself to see if I could just not do it. Because I knew if I had them with me, the pain would be so great, or I would start having that really terrible withdrawal type feeling. And then I would just say, okay, whatever, I'm gonna take one. So I left my narcotics at the schoolhouse where I taught. I left them in my desk, my office drawer. And I was like, I'm gonna go home this weekend. Now I'll have 2-3 days. I think it was like a 3-day weekend. I was like, I'll have 2-3 days. I don't have to take this medication. I'm not gonna let it have a hold on me. And I was like, I'll just leave it at the schoolhouse, because once, you know, the building is locked up, you can't just get back in. Well, after like day 2 or 3, oh my gosh, it was the worst. At the time, my husband had to take me to the emergency room because I was like, I guess I didn't want to realize in my head what was happening, that my body was so dependent on these narcotics. And I literally felt like that was going to be the end of me. I guess I got to watch what I say, because I think YouTube like monitors and doesn't want you to say certain things. So in my mind, I felt like I was going to be unalive because it was horrible what was happening with that narcotic, heavy doses of narcotics trying to get out of my system, and me just doing it cold turkey. I mean, it could cause unaliving. So I have to watch what words I'm saying. If you're like, why is she speaking in code? That's why. Let's just try to blot some of this. Oh yeah, you can't even, this Estee Lauder one, that's one thing that is nice about it. Once it's set, let me just zoom in and show you. Once this Estee Lauder one is set, I mean, it is set. It's not going anywhere. I can't even try to blot it or blend it. It's kind of like drying and stuck in those little crevices. This Sarah Creole one, it's still kind of tacky and it's thick, and I do not like it. So, all right, well, at least we know that I don't like either of those concealers. I'm gonna hang on to this Estee Lauder one though, because I think this might be nice to cover like a blemish or something, since it really, actually I have a blemish here, a healing one, just left a little red mark. I think this would be good, a nice full coverage concealer, and it will stay in place and you don't have to worry about it budging. So I'll hang on to this one, but this Sarah Creole one, I mean, it's pretty packaging, nice glass packaging, but I do not like it for my skin. So I went to the emergency room because it was so bad. The withdrawals were so bad. And you know, I did not want to take those heavy medications. And I know the military doctors were like making me take all that nonsense. And so the ER doctor, this was at the military hospital. I'm just putting on my CL blush. This is in the shade Rush because I thought it would sort of match my shirt. These are so pretty. These are sunscreen, SPF 45, I think. SPF 45 blushes. I love, love, love these. Now, don't skip your sunscreen and think this is gonna protect you. This is just that extra icing on the cake. So the doctor gave me morphine. That's what they immediately gave me, and within, I mean, I was in so much pain. I was like slumped over. I literally thought it was the end of my life at that moment. It was horrible. And I guess I knew what was happening. I knew these were withdrawals to narcotics, and I knew obviously my body was so dependent on them. You know, the doctors, because I said when he gave me the morphine, instantly, he gave me morphine IV push. I don't remember how much it was, but it was enough to instantly like flood my body, and my body, not my mind, but my body was like, ooh, yay, we feel good again. But in my mind, I got so upset and I started crying. And he's like, why are you crying? And I was like, yeah, I feel better. But I realized at that moment, like, am I gonna be able to, I'm 20, in my 20s, I'm not gonna be able to live without, you know, narcotics. And he was like, no, you're not addicted to them. Cause I'm like, I'm addicted, this is horrible, I'm a drug addict. I mean, I was really upset. And he was so nice though. He was like, no, you're not, just that's your body. Your body is dependent on this medication. He's like, listen, anything can be addicting. He's like, you could take Advil every day and your body can get dependent on it to where you feel like, you know, you can't function without it. But of course, narcotics, that's a whole another level, obviously. But I was so sad. And I thought, how am I going to do this? How am I going to live my life without this? And I did not want to, you know, have to go to the emergency room after a few days of cold turkey detoxing to get a morphine IV push to make my body feel normal again. And I think right after that, like I felt so good after that. I think we went to the mall or something, or we went to the fair or a park or something. That's how good my body felt. But that's no way to live because if you know anything about chronic pain and narcotics, it's just going to keep getting worse. And narcotics are not the answer to chronic pain. You know, for acute, you know, sudden onset pain, like if you have to break your leg or whatever, fine. But to continue to take narcotics long term, you're waiting for a nightmare to happen. So I'm going to tell you about rehab and how I detoxed with methadone. And so if you go to a doctor, ladies, or if there's any guys watching my channel, please be cautious. Don't just trust what they say and just keep popping those pills. I've heard so many stories of people who have gotten addicted to the hard stuff, to the street stuff, because they fractured their ankle or whatever and had a little softball injury, something simple. They lived a normal life. And then the doctor just, you know, gave them the narcotics like candy. Like, yeah, just take this whenever, you know, you feel bad. Or for example, if you're stressed or anxiety, they give Xanax or different, you know, narcotics, controlled substances that sure, they serve a purpose for a very temporary amount of time, but they're not meant to be taken long-term because our bodies will become dependent on them. So I was not happy, even though my body was happy. You know, in my mind, I'm just like, oh my gosh, you know, just my life is over. And so anyways, to make this super long story a little bit shorter, let me do my lip liner. I'll fast forward through it and then I'll finish the rest of my story of what happened when I went to rehab. All right, this is my Wet n Wild lip liner stain, by the way. I love this stuff. I wear shade Nude Tights. And for my lipstick, I think I'm gonna use this NYX one. This is their Lip IV. The shade is Bubblegum Burst, I think it says. So just be cautious. So that's what I wanna warn you. Be cautious. You know, if you think that you're trusting this provider, especially, you know, like I said, back in the day, Ultram Tramadol was not a controlled substance. They gave it out like Advil, but it's an opioid. And that's very addictive. Just be cautious. If you have a doctor who's like, here you go, here's 180 Xanax. Like, you should not be getting in any more than like 5 to 7 of a narcotic at a time. And then let's go back to the drawing board, maybe try physical therapy or counseling, whatever it is, depending on if it's a physical issue, you know, a psychological issue. But the doctors were just giving me bottles and bottles of narcotics. And of course, like that fentanyl, the patch, that just threw my body over the top. So just please be careful. And sure, it might feel great, you know, in the moment, or say you have a migraine or whatever. There are ways to treat migraines. For example, I get Botox. I talk about that all the time for migraine prevention and treatment. There are ways to treat migraines without taking narcotics, because narcotics for migraines, you might have relief the first few times, but then you get rebound pain, and now your migraines are going to be 100 times worse than what they are. So for me, I just wish, you know, I knew back then what I know now. I wish that I knew better, and obviously I wasn't government property and where I could have a better voice for myself. And I wish I had only taken, you know, a temporary amount of the narcotics and then just really do some intense physical therapy to work on trying to heal my neck, versus just allowing me to just lay in bed and be in so much pain and just keep taking the medication. But now, you know, I use my husband's insurance, so I can just go, and I still go to the VA. I have full medical benefits, obviously, after getting medically separated from the military. But now, of course, I could advocate for myself and say, no. Like, even one time I had to go to the ER because I could not move my head. I couldn't move my neck. This was about 10 years ago. And I was in so much pain, and they're like, okay, well, do you want us to give you, you know, some morphine? And then do you want us to send you? I was like, nope, don't want that. Just give me a shot of Toradol. It's like a really strong Advil. I was like, just give me a shot of Toradol. I'll take a pack of steroids, take that for the week, and I will just deal with it. But I did not, you know, because there was so much inflammation, so I knew I did need something. And then I made the appointment, started physical therapy again, because I did not want to deal with the narcotics. I would hate for anyone to ever have to go through what I went through. Of course, I'm kind of like breezing over a lot of the stuff, but this was extremely traumatic for me back then. I cried a lot. That's probably why they were like, oh, you're just depressed. Let's give you antidepressants and then get out of my office. I wasn't depressed in that manner. It was just sadness because I felt helpless, because, you know, I was in my 20s. I didn't really have any family to help me. And, you know, my husband at the time was just whatever. That's a whole different story. But it was very traumatic on me. So if I can help anyone to avoid what I went through, then hopefully this video is helpful. You know what I want? I want a little highlighter. I'm gonna use my CL SPF 50 highlighter. This is in the shade Piper. So I was medically separated from the military, and then I started out at the VA. And the VA, thankfully, they were more into, you know, granted they still prescribe medication, things like that, but they were more into, like, let's get these patients healed. Let's heal them up so that they can live a normal life. You know what, let's put more blush on. Let's use this shade Ready. This is really pretty. I love these. I love these blushes. These are perfect if you're like me and you're not a makeup artist and you have a habit of like putting way too much makeup on sometimes, especially if it's super pigmented. You can do these with your eyes closed. They're so, so pretty. I got this all-nighter. It says it's a glow, the Urban Decay. It says it's like a glowy setting spray, because I thought, oh, maybe that would work over this matte one, but I don't feel like this is glowy at all. But it's just kind of like the original Urban Decay setting spray, I think. So we're just gonna let that sit. I mean, of course it looks glowy when I first spray it, but when it dries down, I don't really feel like it's glowy. But I do kind of like it. I just bought the small one. All right, so to finish this story while my setting spray is drying down, I went to the VA, and they were more into like trying to help heal your body, not just cover it up and just give you pills and then kick you out of the office. Oh, really quickly, kind of a funny story. Not really funny, haha, back then, but now I always chuckle about it. One of the military doctors that I was seeing, I was like so desperate, and I was in his office, and he's like, here's more narcotics, bye, get out of my office. And I was like, no, please. You know, I was still military. He was still higher ranking than me. So even though it's like a doctor's office, it's not like when you're a civilian. And so I was like, please don't make me leave. Listen to what I'm trying to tell you. I don't want more narcotics. I don't like what my body's feeling. Can we heal, you know, my body a different way? And he was like, Sergeant, get out of my office, go get this medication filled, and then get back to duty. And I was like, I finally, I don't know, something came across me, even though I'm a rule follower, but I was in so much pain and I was starting to feel like I was losing my mind. And I was like, no, I am not leaving your office until you help me to get better. And I mean, really stupid move on my part. Now, as a civilian, sure, I could tell a doctor, no, I'm not doing that, or I could go find another doctor, but in the military, it's not like that. And I laugh about it now, but at the time he was like, if you don't get out of my office right now, I'm gonna call security, the MPs. And he's like, I've already said what I've said. There's your medication. Go back to duty. You know, it is what it is. And I was like, I'm not leaving. And then he picks up the phone and I was like, I'm leaving. I'm out of here. Sorry, sir. And I left because that's the last thing I wanted to do was get in trouble. It's funny, I look back on that story now and it's like, man, I cannot believe, like if that were to happen nowadays and you know, going to a civilian doctor, I could have just said, no, thank you, not taking this. I'm going to go find another doctor. But it's not like that when you're in the military. So now, if you have a child or something who's going to join the military, I still think that if I had children, I've never had children, but if I did have children, I still think the military is like the best way to get an education, to see the world. You know, it's just a great way to have, you know, a military family of people that you have things in common with. To me, I loved it. I would have stayed in. So I just think that the healthcare could have been a lot better. But as far as just being in the military overall and the experiences, and you know, in my 20s, I got to travel all over Europe, and you know, I didn't have that much money, so I would like fly on like a hop, like a plane, like a supply plane. It wasn't like some fancy luxury first class, but you know, we were in jump seats flying over to Turkey and different countries and stuff. So it wasn't luxury, but hey, I still got to see different parts of the world. And Paris, I went to Paris, golly, like 10 times when I was 21 years old, because we were able to, with the USO, take different hops and go over there. But so I still think that the military is the best. You know, you get your education, and I think that's huge. But as far as what I experienced, as far as my health care, I just had a really rough time. But so I was medically separated, and this whole process took about a year and a half, I guess, afterwards. And so then I was medically separated, and then I, of course, was with the VA, and the VA thankfully was like, we're gonna help get you off all of those medications. And so I did a 30-day detox program, and because every time, and I just kept trying to go off of the medications. I'd like break the pill in half or do a lower dose, and I kept trying to like tweak my dose so that I could like gradually taper off. And each time I'd start having terrible withdrawals. It was just if you've ever dealt with it, it's the worst. And I was like, I want this stuff out of my system so badly that I wanted to have pain. I just didn't want those medications in my body anymore. So I was willing to deal with the pain at this point, because I thought, I'm too young. I am too young to have my body so dependent on this. And so anyways, they did like a 30-day detox program. And since, of course, what I was taking, I had to detox with methadone. That's what a lot of like heroin addicts detox with. And the nice thing about methadone is you don't get that high feeling from it, but you can take a certain amount and taper off properly with that. So it gives your body what your body's needing, obviously. It gives your body what it's needing, and then it slowly can wean itself off. And so I didn't want to go through the withdrawals in front of, there was like, I don't know, 15 patients, other patients in this that were gonna be going through the rehab the same time I did. And I don't know, I was like, I don't wanna go through those I just did not want to go through those withdrawals in front of everybody and deal with it. And of course, I was fearful of what might come out of my mouth or how I might treat somebody. So I was like, you know what? I asked them, I said, could I start at home 1 week before? So they let me do the detox as long as I had somebody there with me. And I had to keep going to the doctor and stuff every day to monitor, but they let me do that detox at home, and it was rough. Oh, it was rough. But I'm so thankful that the VA doctors had, that they had a program like that, that they were willing to help the vets. And so anyways, then I was admitted for 30 days. I mean, it was strict. Like, you could not leave until, I think, after 2 weeks. Then they let us sign out for the weekend if we wanted to go somewhere with our spouse. And then you had to keep getting drug tested every time you came back. And of course, for me, I was like, I'm not gonna take drugs. I wanted this stuff out of my body. But like 5 people got kicked out of the program because when they got to sign out, like 2 weeks later for a couple hours, they came back, got drug tested, and sure enough, they tested positive for stuff. So, I mean, it's a terrible thing to go through that. But anyways, in the detox program, they did things like we had to do like heated pool therapy. So there was a big heated pool inside the facility I went to. And that, you know, being in a swimming pool is like one of the best things when you have pain like that. You know, and at that time I now had fibromyalgia, I had all kinds of issues. And so the heated pool therapy, we had to do that. We had to do like physical therapy every day, and which was great. That was something, that's why now, you know, if somebody has pain, it's like, don't just start popping pills. Try some type of therapy or physical therapy if you don't know what exercises to do, because if that's not our training, we don't know what exercises to do. Go to the experts that can help you, because our bodies are meant to heal, not just to mask the symptoms and just keep popping narcotics. So I did physical therapy every day for like an hour, and I really started getting like the muscles around my neck. Like, you see me sitting here normal now, but a lot of times I'm like this. I'm always guarding just out of habit, and I have really intense lumps. Like when I go get a massage, they're like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? I have like deep knots. And that's just what's happened since the surgery. And that's why I get the Botox. It, you know, helps the migraines. And by the way, the migraines only came after the surgery. All kinds of health issues popped up after the surgery. So my migraines aren't like what other people's are. Mine start in the neck and then it works its way up, and then it always goes into this left eye, and then it's like I can't see, like, you know, I'm throwing up, like it's a mess. But so my migraines are very different from other people, and that's why the Botox typically works wonders on me. But they also do the back of my neck, they do up here in the shoulders, and but I'm not happy with what's happened this last time I'm seeing a new doctor. But I'll talk about that in another story, another video of now what's going on with these Botox injections, so that hopefully I can help to guide you if you are wondering if Botox for migraines would work for you. But you know, for the past 20 years, it's been great for me. So so we did that. They also made us do like crafts and stuff, and so like we would do like clay pottery, and I'd make like cookie jars and things like that. They'd make us paint, and not because they wanted to teach us a hobby, but because they were trying to get instilled in our brain to do things that would distract you from the pain. So that's why doing YouTube is great for me, because even if I'm in pain, now if I'm in like severe pain, I'm not going to be in front of a camera, but it's a distracting way of something I enjoy doing, and then editing and doing all that, or replying back to you guys. I love chatting with you all. It's something that helps distract me from pain versus just sitting around like a couch potato and popping medication to mask the symptoms. So they made us do that. Another thing they made us do, we had to play bingo like 2 or 3 times a week. And back then, just because I was still in my mind just really frustrated that that's where I was in life, in rehab, because of everything I went through in the military and served my country, and was just so, you know, I wanted to be in forever, and then all this stuff happened. And so I didn't want to go to bingo. And I remember the first week, they're like, why aren't you in bingo? And I was like, I don't want to hang out with people. And so I was like, I said it nicer, but in my mind, I'm like, ooh, people. I don't want to be around a ton of people. I'm an introvert, by the way. I like to have 1 or 2, maybe 3 close friends, but I do not like big parties and gatherings and like being the center of attention. I don't enjoy that. If I'm at like a get together, I'm very quiet and I observe. I don't like all that, and all that commotion. Like if it's super crowded and it's too much commotion, like going by my head, my eyes, it's like, I just don't like that feeling. I'm a homebody. I love to be at home. I love to travel, but just with me and my husband, and, or, you know, be with my parents or his mom or whatever. I like small, intimate groups, more groups that are like rewarding, where, you know, you get something out of it. Like a big party, I don't get anything out of that. So I don't know. Anyone else like that? I'm an introvert, but I do like traveling. I love being on a cruise, but some people are like, if you're an introvert, how can you be on a cruise? The first day is just hectic, everybody's crazy, but we always find our own little nooks, and we do our own little thing on cruises. We don't do all the big gatherings and all of that. We like the peaceful aspect of cruising. And we don't go on we like to go on the cruises with the older, the better. Like I like to be the youngest one on a cruise. So like for example, Holland America, that's our favorite because usually the people, the age starts out around in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And it's just nice and peaceful, no loud music. It's just calm, enjoyable. That's my vibe. So anyways, they were wanting me to go do bingo and that's mandatory. Like you have to go through the rehab the way they want you to go through it because they know how to get people obviously to learn how to heal and to deal with pain. And bingo was one of them to get you, of course, to be distracted, but also to teach you, because a lot of times when you go through what I went through, you do isolate, not necessarily become an introvert like I am, but you kind of do isolation, which can be very dangerous. You know, then you could really go into depression and have thoughts that you don't want to have, things like that. But so they want to teach you to, you know, mingle with others. And I didn't want to do it because I was at that point in my life where I was starting to just isolate. So they were like, if you don't go to bingo, we can't keep you in this program. And I remember being so annoyed, like, y'all want to make me go to bingo with all these other people that, you know, and in my mind, it's like, I didn't want to know why they were going through rehab. I just didn't care. I was just so in my head and angry what I was going through. But it was great. I ended up meeting some wonderful people. I don't talk to them nowadays. We've lost touch. Most of them were a lot older than me. I was, like I said, I was in my late 20s. I'm 29, 30, maybe 31. But everyone else there, they were much older than me. I think the next youngest person was like 40, but there were some people in their 50s and 60s. So they didn't care what your age was. If you were a veteran, you got to be in this program if you qualified. So anyways, they made us do all these different activities and it actually just worked out great. And I got to detox, but they did want to prevent you from having pain with things like, you know, I would use like a TENS unit, like that would kind of help zap, you know, numb those nerves. And then they would still prescribe medication. Like that's how they did, like topiramate, which I liked the topiramate, the Topamax better than the Neurontin because with Neurontin I gained a lot of weight. With topiramate, I was able to lose all of that weight that I had gained in the military. But to be honest, it really didn't help me. it didn't really do anything. But back then I was like, ooh, it's making me skinny again. And so I kept taking it. But as far as my pain, it didn't help. There was really nothing that helped for my pain except for physical therapy, swimming, and you know, sometimes an Advil. But other than that, I got those narcotics out of my system and I got healthy. I also really started, you know, making sure I was hydrated and taking good supplements and things like that. So that's what I did for 30 days. And, you know, there was more to the whole program. They also made us go see psychologists or psychiatrists. And we also learned like different meditation things. I'm not huge into meditation other than prayer meditation. So if I'm meditating, I'm usually like just praying quietly in tongues or, you know, and just speaking to the Lord. But the one meditation that I did like that they would make us do, like if you're trying to sleep at night and your body's aching, where you, I forget what it's called, but where you like clench just little muscle groups. So like, and the lady was like talking really soft like this, which of course would make me giggle when we're having to do it. Cause I'm like, why is she sounding like she's a 1-900 number? Like, I was like, this is not making me relax. It was making me giggle. But when I would really focus, she would talk like that and then tell you, okay, first clench your toes, only your toes, nothing else in your body. You squeeze your toes and then squeeze it for like, I don't know, 10 seconds and now relax. And then now try to squeeze just the arch of your feet only. And then, you know, squeeze it, relax. Then do your ankles, both ankles, or one at a time. Then you move up, then do your calves. And by the time I would get to like my stomach, I was asleep. So it did work when you were focusing on those muscle groups, clenching and then just releasing. And so that would help with sleep. Now for sleep, I'll share in another video what I'm doing for sleep. And oh my gosh, I have the best sleep ever. Not to mention my diet's changed. I don't eat hardly any carbs and I don't eat sugar, but I've been doing something for sleep and oh my gosh, total game changer for me. But I'll share all that in another video as well. So anyways, that's my story. After I got out of, you know, the rehab, did all that, they continued to send me to physical therapy. I signed up with like Massage Envy because, you know, I had a little bit more money then. And I did like, back then I only had to pay like 30 or 40 bucks a month for a massage. Now the prices are so much higher, but I would get like a massage and that helped. And so I just really tried to heal my body more naturally. And I still have pain. Some days I have tons of pain, and you know, but it is what it is. And every now and then if it gets too bad, I go back to physical therapy and we start the process over. I get massages, things like that. But I had mentioned earlier that I do still take tramadol or Ultram, which is now, you know, back then it was not a controlled substance, but now it is. And my neurologist in Miami, he was like, you know what, we'll give you the 50 milligrams, but just break it in half. And when your pain is really bad, just take that small dose. And so this, and you know, he's like, don't do it every day, obviously, but he's like, take that small dose. And so this way it just kind of takes the edge off, because he knows for me, I do not like that feeling. I don't want to have like that do-do-do-do. I do not like that at all. And so that's what I do. So I just keep my little bottle. And if you look at my bottle, there's like tons of little broken pieces, because sometimes I'm like, I just need a little bit. And like I said, it's 50 milligrams. It's so low. Like my dad, I think at one time he was taking 300 milligrams. So if that tells you how low of a dose mine is. But I just take it every now and then, never every day. And when I go to the doctor, if I do have a massive flare up in my neck, if the emergency room doctor is offering narcotics, I let them know, nope, no thank you. And if I do need medication, like I said, I'll do Advil. Sometimes I'll do 800 milligrams of Advil with a 500 Tylenol. One of my ER doctors taught me to do that synergistic effect. And you know, I only do it like every 10 hours, not every 4 or 8 hours. But I'll do something like that. Or if I have to get on a steroid pack, sometimes I'll do that just, you know, for a week, not nonstop. If I have to have a shot of Toradol, if I'm in the ER, or if it is a full-blown migraine, if I didn't take a Nurtec in enough time, because with Nurtec you have to take it sudden onset. Otherwise, if you wait till it's full-blown, it doesn't work. It's only happened twice where I was trying to stick it out, like I don't want to take any medicine, and then it turned into a full-blown migraine, can't see, throwing up, you know, a mess. They can give you something in the ER that is not a narcotic. So that's just how I am now. I try to caution everyone I know. Like some people are like, oh look, the doctor gave me this whole bottle of Percocets, and it's like, no, please don't take those, because very often there's a high percentage that if you take those every single day, your body will do what mine did, and your body's going to crave it every single day. So, and you don't want it to turn into, you know, one of the horrible stories that you hear. I mean, any of these TV shows that you see where people are like living on the streets, and all of the medications that you see, the street narcotics that are out there, and the poor young kids that are addicted, a lot of the stories you hear are because they just went to the doctor, innocently sprained their ankle or whatever playing softball, and now their life is completely turned upside down because of, you know, what's happened. So it's not the doctor's fault all the time, but I feel like the education isn't out there enough. And so that's hopefully my warning to you, to help you, that if you're ever in that same situation, just be cautious. Even though I loved the military, I do think that the care that I got, that I still get at the VA, what they do for the VA vets has been quite remarkable, except for one doctor I've had at the VA, but that's another story. Anyways, so this is the makeup for today. Oh, let me zoom in so that you can see, and hopefully you can see all the pores, every nook and cranny. Now I see this was a matte foundation, but since I don't have the air on and it's kind of hot, my oils come through. The glare is just from this big bright kitchen light right above me. So obviously it's not that shiny looking, but let me pull out my favorite MAC blot powder and let me show you. This is what I typically will do. Now I almost always wear a hat when I'm out and about anyways, but let me just show you. MAC blot powder is the best. It like kind of makes your pores look smaller, takes down any shine, and so there you go. I still have this beaming light on me, but it's not as much. And then I just put some here as well. All right, so maybe you can see, I feel like this looks dry under my eye. This was the Estee Lauder side, and it feels kind of dry. It's nice that it's self-setting. I mean, golly, I would never even put powder on underneath here. And then this CeraCreole, I think this is terrible. Oh my gosh, this looks so bad. I'm actually gonna put a little of my Coffee Eye Lift serum on and then press this in, and I'll put some of my Hostess over top. This one's super hydrating. This is, to me, like one of the best mature skin-friendly under-eye concealers. My brows, I mean, they're okay. I was talking, so I messed up little spots, but they're okay. I need to shape this piece better. I just feel like it's a little bit waxier than I'd like. My Kosas one really fills in these little spots, and it just looks so much better. So yeah, I like this Kosas. This will help kind of shape it a little bit better. And I can still draw a little fine hair stroke. So I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that Morphe one, but you know, if you're in a pinch, you're in Ulta and you're on a budget, it's not horrible, but I feel like so many spots are missing because I feel like it just almost, it fades away or something. So it's not like I'm going anywhere special today. No one's gonna be like, oh my gosh, your brows don't look right, because I'm gonna put a baseball hat on anyway. So, all right, well, I think that's it. And if you have any questions, I'm wondering if YouTube is gonna like flag this video. I hope they don't, because it's like, I don't wanna say it's sensitive stuff, because I'm just talking about my experience. So that's my story, and I hope it was helpful. And again, leave me a comment down below, and please don't like feel sorry for me or whatever, because you know, that's life. We all go through things in life. I don't feel sorry for myself or anything like that. I've grown from it, I've learned from it, and honestly, I don't regret anything I've went through in life, because I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't have experienced some of those things. And you know, I'm in my mind, I'm still believing and praying for my healing, and in my mind, I do believe that I am healed. I might not see it yet in the natural, but I am still thanking the good Lord that I am healed. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.